morning everyone. So today I'll be discussing you about filling and assembling cake. So first, mise en place is a French term that means putting in place. Its purpose gives you an idea of all the ingredients you have prepared for a meal. In case one component is missing, you will notice and avoid rushing or turning off the oven to go fetch the missing ingredients. Before you begin cooking, all ingredients will be at the table. So that's the mean of mise en place. So let's begin to our main topic, fillings. Fillings is a thick mixture which is used between the layers of cake. It may be some of the frosting to which nuts, marshmallows, or fruits are added. Whipped creams and custard mixtures are sometimes used for fillings. So I have a video sharing the procedures in icing a cake and a video of torting a cake.
First things first, I have my butter cake in front of me. We want to tort this into 2 layers. I have one already done in front of me. You can see I have my layers already sliced. So when you're torting your cakes, I find that using a serrated knife works best. Hold your cake with your hands, apply a little bit of pressure, and what you want to do is you just want to score the side of the cake. I'm holding my right hand in place, and with my left hand, I'm just moving the cake. So once I've scored the cake, the knife has somewhere to go, just to follow. And I just let the knife do the work. I'm not sawing it, I'm just turning. And as soon as I feel that give, that's a good sign that you have a nice, sharp, clean corner. Just going to put my scraps in here. Don't worry about the crumbs just yet. And something that I personally like to do, this is where my pastry background comes into play, is I like to trim the crust off of all my cakes. I just think visually it looks better. And in my opinion, it looks very professional. Just dump those scraps into your scrap bowl. So we have our crusts removed. Next thing we want to do is we want to tort our cake into 2 pieces. So just like we did when we were removing the dome, you want to score the cake. And remember, I'm holding my knife in place. I'm not sawing it. I'm not moving it. My left hand is doing all the movement for me. So once I've scored it, then the knife has a place to follow. Just turn. Okay. And then we have our cake ready for filling.
So that would be all. Thank you. I hope you gain more knowledge and have an idea about my report today.
Good day everyone, I am Krisa and I'm from the group of OAKWOOD Bakery, and I will be reporting about the base cake and cake decorating tools. I don't know if you could see it clearly because I had a hard time looking for a place to do this report, but I will do my very best to explain it further. So the first one is the base cake. Actually guys, there are 4 types of base cake that bakers usually use, which are the sponge cake, butter cake, Japonese cake, and the quads cake. So the first one is the sponge cake. Sponge cake is plain and light cake by mixing or whisking ingredients like sugar and eggs together, forming stiff and aerated mixture, and then blended with flour. So technically guys, sponge cake is made without the use of baking powder or baking soda, but it has a lot of whipped eggs or egg white. The traditional sponge cake has only 3 ingredients, which are the flour, sugar, and eggs. Next is the butter cake. Butter cake is also another widely used base for gâteaux and torts because it has firm texture and compared to sponge. So as you can see guys, butter cake has firm texture than the sponge cake, and it is considered as one of the quintessential cakes in American baking. Next is the Japonese cake. Japonese cake is a baked meringue with the ground nuts, sugar, and egg white. This cake is also being used for assembling gâteaux and torts. And as you know guys, Japonese cake has less sugar than the normal meringue. Last is the quads cake. The quads cake is a dessert cake made of meringue base and topped with flavored cream between. It can be made with coconut instead of nuts, where Japonese is not. So these are the 4 types of base cake that bakers usually use. Now, let us proceed to the cake decorating tools. So the first one is the turntable. It has a leg about 6 or more inches in height that provides support to a round table made of wooden or other sturdy material that rotates clockwise or counterclockwise. So this turntable is similar to Lazy Susan. Turntable is very useful upon designing the sides of the cake because it can be rotated easily. Next is the acetate. Acetate is a clear plastic film available in 12 by 18 inches size which can be cut according to need. Patterns or designs are piped on the acetate, then allowed to dry and then transferred to the cake. So acetate is way more better than the wax paper because it does not stick and it can be rolled easily when designing melted chocolates. Next is the corrugated cardboard. Corrugated cardboard has a lot of uses. First, as a serving plate for decorating the cake. Wrap the cardboard in aluminum foil, then decorate the cake before transferring it to another serving plate. Second, you can use the cardboard as a cake box, which can be served as a gift box. So as you can see guys, corrugated cardboard has a lot of uses. It can be served as a cake box, a gift box, and as well as a container for transferring the cake. Next is spatula. Spatula is used to spread and flatten icing all over the cake. Choose a spatula made of stainless steel with thin blade about 6 to 18 inches long and has a rounded tip. So I bet everyone knows what spatula is, right? Spatula is very important or very useful upon designing the cake because it can make the frosting or icing much easier. Next is the smoother, edger, and cake combs. Are used to create textures, patterns, and designs on the icing top and sides of the cake. So smoother, edger, and cake combs are used to design the cake also. Smoother is used to create very fine and smooth texture, while the cake combs and the edger are used to create different designs, patterns, or line. Next is cookie cutters and cookie stamps. Cookie cutters and cookie stamps are used to create variety of shapes and figures on marzipan or fondant. Cookie stamps and rubber stamps can be used to make imprints of your designs. So cookie cutters and cookie stamps is very useful upon shaping the desired cookie shape that you like, especially if naamoy bata sa inyo. This is very useful kay it can make your child eat a lot of cookies, and because pod buringan man siguro tanan bata if usara ka shape sa cookie ang ilang makita. They can find enjoyment kung makakita sila different shapes sa cookies nga ilang makaon. Next is the candy molds, cookie molds, and ice cake trays. Candy molds, cookie molds, and ice cake trays are used for shaping chocolates. Just pour the melted white or dark or a combination of both chocolate into the mold, then allow to cool. So this is also similar sa cookie cutters, but the difference between two is ang cookie cutters shape ra yung masuon, while these cookie molds kayang hold yun yung masuon, like the actual leg, arms, especially the face. Next is pastry bag. It's a cone-shaped bag made with either of muslin cloth with plastic lining or plain plastic material. It used to pipe icing, frosting, whipped cream, and berrying using pastry tip. Next is the pastry tip. Comes in large and small sizes, creating different patterns and designs in cake. They can be bought in set or in individual pieces. So the pastry bag and pastry tip are like partners, kay they are used upon designing the cake also, like sa icing, frosting sa top of the cake. Daghan siya lain-lain nga pastry tip. You can choose whatever pastry tip that you want to use. Next is the stencils. Stencils are made of thin plastics and available in many patterns. To use stencil, put on top or sides of cake, then allow the door to fill up spaces on the cut patterns on the stencils. So stencils kay like patterns siya or like somehow designs na ibutang sa kilid sa cake para masuon siya niya. Just like this one. Next is the edible pattern transfers. A variety of patterns is available to transfer directly onto cake. So, somehow parehas siya sa stencils, but this, sa panganpalandan nga pattern transfer, you can choose para what patterns nga gusto nimo nga designs. Then you can easily put it on a cupcake or cakes. Kay it kanang dali raman siya mabutang and safe po siya because it is edible. So guys, this is my report about the base cake and cake decorating tools. Thank you.
Good morning, sir. I am Crystal Gay Lumasa from BSHM 2C, reporting about the decorating techniques and presenting and plating sponges and cakes. As we all know, tube work or piping is an essential part of cake decorating. With practice, you will soon master the art of decorating a cake using a royal icing in a tube. On my report for today, I will show you a video on how to use the piping bag properly and its tip, which we also call nozzles. So, enjoy!
Bag and tip decorating is one of the most fundamental skills for cake and dessert decorating. But first, you have to learn how to prepare the decorating bag. I'm going to show you two different ways to do this. One is with a coupler and one is without. If you're going to be using the same bag of icing with multiple tips, you're going to want to use a coupler. A coupler is a two-part. It has a base and it has a ring. To prepare your bag with a coupler, you're going to go ahead and open your decorating bag and insert the pointy end of the coupler down towards the end. You're going to take your scissors and you're going to want to mark the coupler just slightly below, about 1/4 of an inch below that bottom thread, just like this. I think I got a mark there. And then you're going to go ahead and push the coupler back out. Take your scissors and just clip it off right at that point. And then push the coupler, the pointy end, right through the bottom of your bag. And then you're going to take your tip, place it over the coupler, and then your ring, and twist and lock it into place. Now I'm going to show you how to fit a bag without a coupler, which is really great for when you're using just one tip or a large tip like the 789, 2D, or 1M. This is a 16-inch bag, and as you can see, it's a lot bigger than the 12-inch. This is perfect when you're going to be doing like cupcake swirls or anything where you're going to be using more icing. It's so easy to do this. You just take your tip, and you're going to drop it directly down into the bottom of the bag. We're going to go ahead and make a mark a little bit lower than the halfway mark with my scissors here. You want to make sure it's a bit lower than halfway because sometimes when you're putting pressure on the bag, if you got lots of icing in there, it can actually push the tip right out through the bottom, and you don't want that to happen. So all you have to do is push the tip back, take your scissors, and hopefully I can see my mark here, and just clip it off right there at that point, and push the tip back through the bottom of the bag. The key to properly filling a bag is to not overfill it. It's really tempting to put a lot of icing in the bag. All right, I'm going to go ahead and cuff back the top about halfway. Making sure the top is open. I'm going to put my hand just right underneath that cuff, holding on to the bottom of the bag. With my angled spatula, I'm going to go ahead and just scoop up this icing. And there's about 1/2 cup in here. And I'm going to put the spatula down inside of the bag. So I'm just going to squeeze the tip of the spatula with my fingers, and I'm going to just pull it right out. So the icing is in the bag and not on my spatula. So I'm going to go ahead and put a whole half a cup in here. Now I'm going to show you how to hold the bag. Learning how to hold the bag is going to help you achieve even piping. The first thing we need to do is twist the back of the bag, and with either a rubber band or a bag tie, you're going to go ahead and secure the back if you like. You don't have to do this, but it helps, especially for beginners. The most important thing to remember is you're going to be using the palm of your hand to put pressure on the decorating bag. This is going to help your hand from getting tired. If you're using the top of your hand or the bottom of your hand to squeeze or put pressure on the bag, it's going to fatigue really quickly. So you want to make sure that you don't overfill the bag. This is a common mistake for beginners. Just remember, less icing in the bag is going to make it easier to squeeze and to control. So let's get started. I'm going to show you how to do this. I'm going to take the twisted part of the bag and I'm going to place it right between the crease in my hand, between my thumb and my forefinger, just like this. And that's going to remind me to wrap my palm around the bag. You can take your forefinger or your middle finger and go ahead and put it on the coupler ring, and that will help you steady the bag as you start to pipe. You're always going to want to practice a little bit before you start decorating. You can do that on wax paper or a cutting board or any kind of flat.
Okay, that's it. Remember how to use the piping bag and its tip properly, okay? So you can avoid comfortness, chakaness, and lubotness of your cake decorating. So for my next video that I will show you is about a bonus, I guess, because it will show you how to create a design like loops, lines, scrolls, basket weaves, lace pieces, and so on. So basta matingala mo kung unsa ni siya, guys, mga icing ni siya, guys, kung unsa ang way sa pag-design niya. Unsa gusto ninyo i-design. So yeah, isa dyan siya i-achieve, honestly lang, sa makalisoy sa pagkuha sa attention sa imong crush na wakaranda.
Fruitcake in marzipan and fondant, and it's really easy. I'm going to go into detail about how I get a professional finish. To move the marzipan, just slide your hands underneath and you can pick it up and move it without putting any strain on it. The first thing you want to do is you want to smooth out the top so that you can get rid of any air bubbles, and then you're going to press the corners in, and that's really important to do straight away, because if you do that you reduce the chance of getting elephant skin or cracking around those corners. And the number one trick is, if you've kneaded this really well, you'll find this easy. So you want to stretch and push. So you're going to use one hand to stretch it out and the other hand to push it onto the cake. So that's all you need to do, and just go all the way around. Now you need to remember to work quite quickly. It needs to be quite warm still, and it needs to be pliable, and both marzipan and fondant do dry out really quickly, so try and get through this part as quickly as you can, and don't worry if you don't get it perfect first time, because practice makes perfect. You want to remove any excess as soon as you can, and save that because we're going to be using it for the decoration later. Now I've popped this onto a ramekin. This is just because it makes it a little bit easier to get a really smooth finish at the bottom. I'm using 2 cake smoothers. These are very inexpensive. You can pick them up at loads of different places, but you can also buy them online. They really don't cost you a lot. So really take the time to knead it very well, and as soon as you've stopped using it, put it in a bag. I am brushing all of the outside of the marzipan with some alcohol. I recommend using alcohol, but if you don't want to, then you can use boiled water instead. On a really well floured surface, I'm rolling out my fondant to about 3 or 4 millimeters thick on a really well floured surface, and just making sure that I move it constantly. And again, I'm lifting it using both arms. This is the best way to transfer it, but if you don't want to do that, then you can roll it around your rolling pin instead. So once you've placed it on, first thing that you want to do is brush the top to get rid of any air bubbles. The second thing that you want to do is push it onto those corners as soon as you can. That's going to prevent any tearing and any cracks. And then, like we did with the marzipan, you're just going to pull it and smooth it down. Pull it and smooth it down all the way around. Try and work quite quickly, and I just generally find if I've got a bit of extra, then I find it easier to work with. So you'll notice that when I cover cakes, I will use more fondant than a lot of people will use, because I like to have a lot of overhang, because I would rather cut it off. I find it so much easier when I have a lot of fondant to work with. So taking my smoother, I'm doing the first pass here, so I'm just going to smooth it all around, and the reason I like to do that first is because I'm going to cut off my excess. This is the second pass, and I'm doing a much better job at this point, and I'm really trying to make sure that it's really well adhered and I don't have any air bubbles. And then using a non-serrated knife, looking at eye level, so I've crouched down a little bit.
So first, the presentation. So guys, sa'yo na kasi tanawa, no? Pero sa ka siya buhaton. Pero dala, practice lang. So for my next video that I will show you again is about decorating a cake with marzipan or fondant. So chika lang ko gamay ha about aning fondant. Mura na siya ganang jellyhon nga murag ipatagumahon nga what siya lasa? Wa lagi? Wa siya lasa, or kato na siguro tayo mga nakakaon ko o nakatilaw ko ato. Tapang na siya pagkaluto. Yeah? Paano masabi? Ay, basta. Pero po to siya, siya pa na siya. So, ito real talk na dito. Pero ano siya? So, muna na siya guys. I will show you the video on how to make a fondant and also on how to decorate it.
I'm sorry, but I've got a technique video which I'm really excited to share with you, and I'm going to teach you 7 easy piping techniques that you can master with just 4 different piping nozzles, and you can do it in like 5 minutes. So what we're going to start with is a 104 tip, and this is a really good tip because it creates like little ruffles. So if you've seen my Nutella eclair video, this is the exact tip I used. And I've got a brilliant hack for you which is going to help you throughout this whole process, and the secret is paper, all right? Don't waste 60 cupcakes to practice piping because it takes a lot of time and it's also really expensive. All you need to do to practice your piping is use a piece of paper. So what we're going to do to practice our ruffles is I've drawn a couple lines and I'm going to pipe in between these lines. Then when I'm done, I can just throw that away in technique. Right, so the ruffle. What you need to do for this is you need to make sure that the fat end of your tip is facing down and the thin end is facing up. That is how you get the ruffle. If it's the other way around, it's not going to work. And like I said, I've drawn some lines here. They just need to be kind of relatively thin, however wide you want your ruffle to be. And we're going to take our piping bag and we're going to hold this at about 30 degrees. So not quite 45, probably about 30 degrees. And we apply even pressure, and we're going to take this and we're going to start at one end of the line. We're going to go all the way back and then just keep zigzagging it. You see what we're doing? Zig, zag. The piping tip will do all the work. Okay, so there we go. I've done practicing my 5. Some of them weren't very good. Some of them got better as I went along. And that is the beauty of this.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Ginagawa mo.
To my fellow classmates, my report is all about the presentation of cake depends on the flawless finishing of its icing decors and the serving plate where it's fit. All of this will determine the amount of attraction impact will create the viewers for our potential customers. Here are some tips of preparing cakes. First is choose plates or constructing cooler or material. It can be used to create dramatic effect. Second, white or cream colored plates are good choice if you cannot decide which color to use. Third, a dark color plate goes well with the light color to create attraction to the customer. Fourth, a cake with plain icing like dark chocolate frosting stands out of the center plate with sample design around the rim of the plate. And fifth, a highly decorated and cake set well on the cake pedestal made of glass, ceramic or metal. Sixth, a color transparent glass plate can pick colors from the cake highlight. Then 7, plate made of sterling silver. Sorry for that. Have classic elegant richness. Then that 8 is the multiple whole cake in their individual plates can be arranged in a large, from the large to smallest if you arrange it. Then 9, slice the cake. 10, arrange the cake on that look interesting with the graphic used. Use the elements like ice cream, fruit, or whipped cream, and chocolate. Then the 12 or 11 is again the disinjuring of the frosting over around the cake by the use of pastry bag. Then 12, use appropriate equipment for presentation. B is a whole cake or a slice like cake pedestal, cake plates and later's bowl or paper plate and napkin. 13. Serve the whole portion of the cake for dinner, parties, and buffet. Or display it on the cake pedestal so that it looks like elegant and flawless for the guest or customer. Another way, N. Cake plating. This is the component of plating a cake. This technique applied for plating a dessert can be applied in all occasions of all cakes that it can serve to the guests or customer. First is the main item, the cake itself. Then the second is the sauce. Third is crunch. Fourth is garnishing. Without garnish, the cake is useless in the customer. Then fifth is the texture. Six is the temperature. 7 is the form and color of the cake. Now we are now in the last and most important stage of cake. It is a characteristic of a good cake. It is an important factor that a bakery or pastry owner need to consider in how to maintain the freshness and the quality of the product. First is it must be moist enough but not that wet. Some cakes are once a cake and bigyan na loto pero sa ubos. Loto sa gawas pero ang usod basa. Then the second is it should have a good texture. Ang pagkanong sa cake yung kwan. Tapos attracting sa mga mata ang texture sa cake. Then the third is it must have a consistent color. May icing before to attract the customers or guests. Then fourth is it must have a white overall if it is a fruit like lemon, orange, orange maganda. It is chocolate. It smells like chocolate. In the cake. Then the last one. It is firm in the middle but burn inside. On the side. Ang gusto nga sakto pagkaluto. Ang sa pili-pili kay paig ang pagkaluto sa cake. That's why to maintain and focus in baking a cake. To avoid
So hi guys, I'm Arad Harold and my topic for today is all about decutting portion control to minimize the wastage of cake. So there are several factors generally produce wastage in any food establishment. So first, we have the machinery malfunction. The second one is inefficiency. The third one is the unequal distribution. And the fourth one is expiration. And the last one is the cancellation of order. So what is machinery malfunction? Once the oven did not run or temperature in the oven is inaccurate, chances are the product quality will be reduced. Next would be the inefficiency. Since baked products such as cakes are very sensitive, overbaked product or underbaked products results to a poor quality production. Unequal distribution. If the sizes of the sliced cakes are inconsistent in proportion, customers might complain about it and prefer to select the larger slice of cakes. Next will be the expiration of date. All cake products have best before dates. Owners of food establishments should sell their products before the expiration date or else they will lose their profit. Last but not least is the cancellation of order. There are times that customers tend to cancel their orders. This is inevitable. A wise owner will make a way to sell the canceled product to other customers. So every business owner should have a standard operating procedures established to reduce and avoid wastage of baked product, because the focus of this lesson is to ensure that wastage will be avoided. So tanang kahago nimo sa pag-bake sa imong product, for example cakes, so dili siya masayang when it comes to cutting portion. And of course, cutting tools should be readily available to ensure that the slicing of cakes is evenly divided depending on the shape and sizes. So on cakes, there are different sizes. So we have the 12, 6 inches, then 14. So ang kana siyang cake na siya different kind of cutting portion depending sa iyang shape. For example, is square. So later on, maabot ra ta ana na topic. So slicing cakes, especially for commercial purposes, it's very essential to ensure that wastage will be avoided. So, for example, anang Red Ribbon or Goldilocks. So, mobile sila ato sa TV commercial para i-advertise ang ilang mga products. So, when we see sa mga, kakita ta sila mga advertisement nga tarong siya nga pagkahiwa nga well proportioned ang iyang slice sa iyang cake or product. So, cutting tools should be provided as well as a tool that will evenly divide cake depending on the shape. So, there are some guides for cutting portion of cake when using a knife to cut slices. So, kung ikaw mo itag-iya sa bake shop, you need to tell all your crews to mark the surface for the number of pieces required by marking cuts directly through the middle of a cake. So, para i-abot dito sa mga customers, dili na sila maglisod o slice kay na naman mo gibutang-daan nga mo nagpalatandaan or sign nga ato siya dapat i-slice para ma-well proportioned ang iyang cake or product. So a cake divider greatly helps me learning how to make even number of portions. So ara nimo makita kung unsa ka tarong or well proportioned ang pag-slice sa imong product. So if a soft icing, cream or chocolate coating is used, it may be necessary to pre-cut the sides using knife dipped in hot water to cut through the hard crust and to prevent the soft icing or cream from being flattened. So kabantay mo anan sa mga DIYs or kasagaran makita siya sa YouTube na i-dip nila ang knife into hot water or boiling water. So ang kasagaran na kay magkuan sila o lighter din ilang sunugon ang knife, which is to help nga in-cut sa cake. For example, kanang mga night gelatin nga ingredients, dili siya dali mabungkag. So, in-slice ana niya is largo-largo na lang siya. So, cake cutting guide. So, the best way to avoid being blamed for other people's cake cutting mistakes is to provide customers with cake cutting instructions together with the cake. So, before nimo ihatag ang imong product or i-deliver ang imong product sa imong customers, you should put some instructions together with the cake. Either ibutan mo siya sa ilam or ipapiliti mo siya sa babaw for instructions together with sa candle. Then, so, next I'm gonna show you the exact accuracy of slicing the cake. So, round cakes. 4 inches is equivalent to 4 servings to 6 servings. 6 inches is equivalent to 8 to 12 servings. 8 inches is equivalent to 16 to 22 servings. 10 inches is equivalent to 26 to 38 servings. And 12 inches is equivalent to 36 to 56 servings. And for the square cake, we have the 4 inches is equivalent to 4 to 8 servings. 6 inches is equivalent to 9 to 18 servings. 8 inches is equivalent to 20 to 32 servings. 10 inches is equivalent to 30 to 50 servings. 12 inches is equivalent to 48 to 72 servings. So, next will be the tiered cakes with separators. So, I'm going to show you on how to cut or slice tiered cake with separators. So, I'm going to show you a video.
Hi, I'm Andrea Baudevane here at Superfine Bakery in Los Angeles, and I'm going to talk to you about how to cut a wedding cake. It's a little different than cutting a party cake, so let me try to help you out and give you some lessons. First of all, when you have a stacked cake like this, first thing you want to do is unstack all the tiers. You do that by getting a metal spatula of some kind, a knife, any kind of flat metal surface will do. don't worry about marking the cake. It's going to get messed up anyway. Slide it underneath the board. There's a cake board underneath each tier. Make sure you feel that board, slide underneath it, and lift the tier off, just like that. Set it down on the counter, do the next one. Oh, I got a little cake on that one. I'll clean it out. There we go. All right, and then do the next one. Now there's a dowel down through 2 of these to help the cake stay more secure. So I'm gonna lift off the second tier knowing that there's a spear in the center. Most cakes have dowels in them. So just be aware of that when you start removing the tiers and lifting them off. There we go. This dowel is actually done with a skewer. So we want to pull that out, set that aside, and now we have 3 beautiful cakes ready to be cut. Okay, so when you start cutting, count 2 inches in from the edge of the cake, it's about right there, and start cutting from the top down with a serrated knife. I'm gonna go this direction, go straight into the cake, just like that, and saw, gently, gently. Hold the cake if you need to for stability and support. And cut a full ring all the way around. This cake is still a little cold, so it's tough to get through. A soft cake, a room temp cake, will be a lot easier. There we go. Clean your knife between each cut. Otherwise you end up with crumbs and icing everywhere. So start cutting from the outside and do 1-inch wedges. Just like that. Don't get a ruler out. I know these aren't perfectly 1 inch, but you get the idea. This is how you get so many slices out of a wedding cake. And I'm gonna start serving, get my knife right above the board, so I'm just touching the cake, lift out a slice, lay it down. It's ready to go. All right, once you've cut and wedged the whole outer ring, you can do it again, count 2 inches in and cut another circle, or in this case, I just have a little 6-inch round left in the middle. Use your knife and bounce it on the top to mark wedges. I do a cross, and then I do a plus in between it, just like that. And I have marked 8 triangular wedges there, and then I can just cut even slices out of that. It's a lot easier to cut if you don't pull the slices out after you cut them. Just leave them there for stability and support. And then cut all the way around the cake, and you'll have little guys ready to serve. All right, and it's that easy. So thank you for joining us today. My name is Andrea again. This is Superfine Bakery. You can find us all across social media on superfinebakery.com, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cake videos. All right, have a good day.
So next, we're going to proceed on how to cut the round cake and square cake. So in round cake, before sinking the knife in the cake, slightly mark where you intend to cut it, because this is to ensure that you are slicing the right serving size of a cake. So in cutting a 12 inches round cake to be cut in 3 concentric circles, use the tip of your knife to mark the center of the cake, the border of the inner circle, and the border of the middle circle. And the outer circle will provide 32 servings. And also you should mark a quarter of this at a time, as each quarter will provide 8 servings. It will be easier to judge the smaller size by eye. So pag una pa lang nimong tanaw sa usa ka cake, if usa na siya kadaka or kagamya, then ato na siya nimo tanaw kung pila na siya ka servings ang pwede nimo mahatag. So next, I'm gonna show you some pictures showing the round cakes in exact proper slices. Round cakes. 6 inches round serves 6 to 10. 8 inches round serves 10 to 17. 9 inches round serves 15 to 20. 10 inches round serves 20 to 30. And 12 inches round serves 40 to 50. Next but not least is the square cake. Square and rectangular cakes are much easier to cut. So kamantay mo sa mga bakeries, for example mga brownies, so sayo na siya i-cut kay square naman siya, unlike sa round nga need pa nimo siyang kuan sa intercircular motions para makuha iyang proper method of slicing. So First, make the marking on the cake before cutting. Second, if the cake is small, the tip of the knife is enough to leave the markings. If the cake is large, make small markings at 2 inches intervals in two opposite sides of the cake. So kung dako ang imong cake, you need to cut slices nga gagmay ra nga kung ano siya kanang bite size. So kung small ang imong cake, you need to cut proportions into 4 or 6 baron. So the third one, mark a line by stretching thread the entire length of the cake and lowering it in the surface of the cake until it leaves a faint line between the two predefined points. Then the last one, proceed to slice across 2 inches of the edge of the cake and then cut the through stripe at 1 inches 2 intervals so that a serving will measure 1 inches by 2 inches depth of the cake. Thank you.